Vinita?
Yes, Mataji.
When to start, please let me know, Vinita.
Sure, Mataji. Give me a second. I'll share the
No
link.
worries, just let me know. I was just making sure that if I did not hear something. So today we'll be actually discussing the last chapter, and this chapter is basically a summary of the whole Gita. So I'm guessing if there is any questions, I think you all will be able to address them, right? Because you have been so, like so sincerely following all the classes and so brilliant questions you all ask. And so I'm thinking that it will be very nice to hear from you all. But today we'll only be doing the first half of the chapter because this is a very long chapter. And then we will be doing Lalitangi Radha Mataji will do the second half next week. She will be doing that. And with that, we'll conclude this series. But then we're going to start another one in August, another new batch. But feel free to join if you want to. I mean, Bhagavad Gita is like like unending nectar, which you can get from each time you read, the more realizations we get. So, I mean, even I think I'm going to join the next batch to hear, and they're going to be different speakers in the next batch. So they will come with their own set of realizations. So there's always so much to learn.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I'll be starting the recording.
Yeah, sure.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa group. Today we are again with another session of Bhagavad Gita. That is chapter 18. We are having Sukha Sagari Mataji, who is going to enlighten us on the chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna, Sukha Sagari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for your valuable time and association for us and teaching us the Bhagavad Gita, the last 18 chapter. Thank you so much, Mataji. Please take over the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vinita, for being the backbone always and supporting all of us with your impeccable technical support. So I don't know what I would do without you. So thank you so much. And thank you to all the organizers for giving me this opportunity to actually purify myself. And on this auspicious day of Ekadashi, I feel really blessed and fortunate to be in all your association. And I wish to benefit from all your association also. Thank you, Hare Krishna. So we will start the last chapter, the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, but we will start off with the invocation verses. And this chapter is titled, as you can see on the slide, Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. So please feel free to recite along these prayers so that the acharyas, Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur can bless us to understand this in the proper mode. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna. Having taken shelter at his lotus feet, our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You're kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Deva and delivering the Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. As we can see, ours is a philosophy of personalism or personal relationships And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially this Channa avatar, as he's known as, a very secret avatar, he gave away the ultimate truth of the personal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. And that is the Rasa Tattva was actually expounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially the Mahabhav Tattva of Srimati Radharani, which was unknown to all of us, was actually given to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So openly he gave away this big secret actually. So ours is a personal philosophy. Panchatattva mantra and Mahamantra. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, Sri Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Srivas Thakur, and all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Next, the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. O Krishna, O energy of Krishna, please engage me in your service. So this Maha Mantra is not just a mantra, but it is Maha Mantra, the best of the mantras, because it actually liberates the souls in this fallen age of Kali. We have been given so much concession that we don't have to take to austere meditation or pilgrimages or fire sacrifices and things like that. Just by chanting this Maha Mantra, we can go back home, back to Godhead. And especially Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has given us a lot of leeway in the sense that uh, even there are no rules of generally for a mantra you are supposed to follow some rigid procedure and some rules and regulations and cleanliness standards and things like that. But for Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has freely given it to any and every common person. So that is a big benediction for us, and we should chant the Maha Mantra with a lot of gratitude. Okay, moving on to the chapter today. So this, like I said, is going to be a summary of the chapters covered so far. We saw that the first chapter actually was setting the scene and what it was like at the war front. Like there were two armies on either side, and suddenly we saw that Arjuna was actually feeling very weak in compassion to his relatives and did not want to fight the war. And at that time, he surrendered to Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna started preaching to him from the second chapter. And the second chapter again is considered a summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita. And this last chapter actually it consolidates all the chapters in such a beautiful way that sometimes if we have some loose ends which may not have been tied up with the other chapters, something which we thought was not clear to us, this 18th chapter actually gives explanations and validations to all the things which we have learned so far in all these chapters. So that way I basically like some of the concepts of karma, the doer, and things like that were not clear to me when I was actually studying the other chapters. And during one class at the temple, I happened to hear a speaker on this chapter, and then I was like, oh my God, there is all the truths are given away so simply in this chapter. So it's a very important and key chapter that way, because it will solve all your doubts or questions which you have in the other chapters. They all will come together very nicely in this chapter. So without further ado, the first verse, Arjuna Uvacha Sanyasasya Mahabaho Tattvamichhami Veditum Tyagasya cha Hrishikesha Prithakkeshi Nishudana. Arjuna said, O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, sannyasa. O killer of the Keshi demon, master of the senses. Arjuna requests him, that's Krishna, to summarize everything in such a way that he can remain equipoised. Yet he has some doubts, and doubts are always compared to demons. He therefore addresses Krishna as Keshi Nishodhana. Keshi was the most formidable demon who was killed by the Lord. Now Arjuna is expecting Krishna to kill the demon of doubt. So this is uh, So we see that Arjuna is posing a question. If we recall, a similar question was posed by Arjuna even in fifth chapter, and from chapter 3 to 5, he kept repeating the same question as to, because he was thinking that sannyasa means giving up everything and just going away, giving up all your duties and responsibilities and just going away. So Krishna tried to explain earlier also what actually sannyasa means and what actually tyaga means. So here he'll be elaborating more on what these two terms actually mean. So sorry. So we will move on to the next slide here, because I just did not do a recap in the beginning, because the first verse from this chapter, Prabhupada actually summarizes uh, what has happened so far. So we can see here on this slide, as Srila Prabhupada is saying, Bhagavad Gita is finished in 17 chapters. In every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna stresses that the devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. This same point is summarized in the 18th chapter as the most confidential path of knowledge. In the first 6 chapters, stress was given to devotional service. The 6th chapter ended with this verse, Yogi Namapi Sarvesham Matkitinantaratmanaha, that verse, which translates as, of all yogis or transcendentalists, one who always thinks of me within himself is the best. So this is the summary of the first 6 chapters. In the next 6 chapters, pure devotional service and activity and its nature and activity were discussed. In the third 6 chapters, knowledge, renunciation, and the activities of material nature and transcendental nature and devotional service were described. It was concluded that all acts should be performed in conjunction with the Supreme Lord, represented by the words Om Tat Sat, which indicate the Supreme Person. So this is a very nice, concise, summary which Srila Prabhupada has actually given us here. He also states that the Vedantas, he says that the certain impulse they consider themselves to have a monopoly on the knowledge of Vedanta Sutra. But actually, the Vedanta Sutra is meant for understanding devotional service for the Lord himself is the composer of the Vedanta Sutra. So he's actually trying to give, Prabhupada in the purport, he's actually trying to give some glimpse of what this chapter is going to talk about also. Not only does he summarize, what has happened so far, but also he's trying to explain, what we can expect in this chapter. I'll just read a few more lines from the purport because it's very interesting. The purpose of life is indicated to be renunciation and attainment of the transcendental position above the three material modes of nature. Arjuna wants to clarify the two distinct subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, namely renunciation, tyaga, and the renounced order of life, sannyasa. Thus, he is asking the meaning of these two words. Two words used in this verse to address the Supreme Lord, Hrishikesha and Keshi Nishudana, are significant. Hrishikesha is Krishna, the master of all senses, who can always help us to attain mental serenity. And Keshi, Arjuna actually is requesting Krishna to dispel all his doubts. So that's why he's referring to him as Keshi Nishudana. And Keshi was the most formidable demon who was killed by the Lord. Actually, these demons who appear in Krishna's pastimes, they all have some kind of, a vice associated with them. So Keshi, actually, he represents our false pride. So when we have pride, it actually is a big stumbling block on our path of learning. When we are full of pride, we don't tend to listen or try to understand or learn from others, because we feel proud that we know everything. So here we can see that Arjuna is addressing Lord Krishna as Keshi Nishudhana, that is the slayer of this demon called Keshi. And he's saying the same way, he's asking or requesting Krishna to actually dispel his doubts also. And now we will see again what Lord Krishna has to say in his answer to what sannyasa is versus tyaga is. Moving on to the next slide. So um, this is the verse goes like this. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sanyasam Kavayo Viduhu Sarva Karma Phalatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyasa. So, very clearly, we see here Krishna is saying the giving up of activities that are based on material desire. He's not referring to all activities, right? So, he is saying that the activities, kamyanam karmanam nyasam. So nyasa means like sannyasa, giving it away. Kamyanam is because of kama, because of desire which we have. Karmanam, the activities, nyasam. So he's very clearly he's telling, giving up of the activities that are based on material desire is what kavayo viduhu. Kavayo means a learned person. Viduhu is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyasa. And giving up the results, sarva karma phala tyagam, prahus tyagam vichakshanaha. And giving up the results of all the activities is what the wise call renunciation. So now what is the difference between the two? So one is proposing that you give up all these activities which are based on material desire, and the other one is saying, okay, even if you do some activities, just give away the fruits of those activities. That is also proposed by Krishna, and we will see that of the two, Krishna says that this is even better. um, Actually, I was listening to another class by another Prabhuji who was explaining this fact as to why, one would think that this is better than that. One is like we have seen so many, the explanations in the other chapters to chapter 3 to 5, that, in Kali Yuga, especially this renunciation, when we do this tyaga, it could not be with a sincere heart. Many a times, we may be fooling ourselves. In the name of renunciation, we may be actually harboring all kinds of desires within our heart and suppressing, and one day it has to all come out. So it's not such an easy thing to do. And also in Kali Yuga, where everybody leads a material life, full of so many desires and ambitions, and so many things, they want power, fame, prestige, and everything. So in that scenario, imagine a person working so hard to make a lot of money, and then he has to give it away. So that takes a lot of austerity, right? That takes a lot of tyaga, or that takes a lot of sacrifice, right? Because he or she has worked hard for it, and then he or she has to give that up. So that's one more point, why this renunciation of these activities, renunciation of the results of the activities is much tougher than actual sannyasa itself in that sense. So let's yeah. So associated with this verse, I just thought, we could delve into what are the three types of karma. Actually, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, he describes in his Jaiva Dharma, it's a book by him, that there are three types of karma. We saw one here, Kamya karma, which Lord Krishna is giving the word here on the first line, Kamya karma. And then there is two other types, Nitya karma and then Naimitika karma. So kamya is, we have just seen what it is. It's like the activities performed for sense gratification, because we have some desires outside of the service of Krishna. So these are kamya, like the word says. And the nitya karma is our prescribed duties which we are supposed to do. We're supposed to follow like the varnashrama order and do certain duties in our daily life, like a parent, a father or a mother or a guru. Everybody, they have their duties, set of duties which they have to follow. And then there's a naimittika karma. Naimittika karma is like occasional duties, which every human being must follow. And this refers to like there may be occasions of birth of a person, birth of a child in the family, or maybe you may have constructed or bought a new house or some possession, and you want to actually conduct some kind of a sacrifice, so that it's not totally material. And the best sacrifice they recommend, when you move into a new house, is have kirtan at your home, call brahmanas, feed them something, prasadam, like that. So this naimitika karma, it's not like you're doing it every day, but it is based on occasion. So you're supposed to follow these naimitika karma also. So these are the basically the three kinds of karma. But we all know in Kali Yuga, these sacrifices um, are not so pure as how they used to be earlier, because the quality of the ingredients and everything has gone down quite a bit. So the best yajna would be to, like I said, have a kirtan program at your home, and then feed the mahaprasadam to everybody. That'll be like the best solution in Kali Yuga, because we're not sure how purely we can conduct the other sacrifices. So this sacrifice, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this Maha Mantra is the best sacrifice in this Kali Yuga. But nonetheless, we should try to do some kind of a sacrifice when the child is born, or when somebody passes away, or when there are big events in the life, like Garbhadhana Samskara and things like that. So there are Vaishnava ways to do all that, and we should try to do such Naimitika karmas also. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so does Tyaga involve giving up all activities? So this is a question Lord Krishna will be answering in these next three verses, 18:4 through 6. Let's see what he says. Renunciation is of three kinds, O best of the Bharatas. Now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds. Yajnadana tapa karma, न त्याज्यं कार्यमेव तत् यज्ञोदानं तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणाम्. Never give up acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity. So you see, there's a person performing like a yajna, and then charity, and then doing some austerity, some penance. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. So we see that there are four ashramas, right? So basically, in the brahmachari ashrama, they are, following very strictly the regulations, rules, and regulations of spiritual life. They're trying to learn. That is the learning phase up to the 25 years. So grahasthas are supposed to give, honor these brahmacharis, feed them, take care of them, and see that they're not disturbed by any material conditions. So then we have vanaprastha. That is again a life of, in one sense, you're in the process, or you're preparing yourself to sannyasa. So that again, you're trying to be a celibate, you're trying to give up all your desires and things like that. So panchashodvam vanam vrajet. So 50 is the age, which the Vedas say is vanam vrajet. You, take vanaprastha. So up to 25 is brahmacharya, you're learning, and you lead a celibate life. And then from 50 onwards, then after that you take sannyasa. So from 50 onwards, it's again a life of renunciation and celibacy. So in between the 25 years are there, which, grahastha must engage in some kind of charity, because otherwise the sense of my family, my child, my my possessions, my people, all these will actually come automatically, when we are in the Grihastha ashram. Naturally, everybody is loving and affectionate towards their family, towards their children, towards their mom, dad, husband, whoever that is, So these things, because of our daily close dealings with everybody, the attachment naturally develops. But then that's why it is very important in the Grihastha ashram to perform some kind of, charity, the sacrifice, and, some penance, like some kind of austerity must be performed for, in some sense, I would say forcefully, even if we don't want to, just um, we should make some do some service at the temple. If you're not able to give time, and not able to do physically, at least give some donation or some lakshmi to the temple activities and things like that. Engage in book distribution and things like that. So these activities especially are very important for Grihastha ashrama, because the other ashramas technically they don't have, I mean, they technically do not touch money, or they are not earning, or they are completely actually renouncing everything, so they're in that stage. So the Grihastha ashrama, uh, they have such a nice privilege, or in one sense, the capacity to serve all the other ashramas so beautifully. So that's why Krishna says that this should not be given up, these acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity. And then he also talks about the mood of performing actions. By the way, all these slides were created by Radhika Mataji. My humble thanks to her. She does such a great job. She actually summarized the whole chapter. I mean, the half of the chapter. Mood of performing actions. All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pratha. That is my final opinion. That's what he says. We will see some examples, because the next few verses will discuss the renunciation in the three modes. So far we have seen, first Arjuna is asking, Krishna to definitively tell him what is sannyasa and what is tyaga. And then Krishna says that one should give up kamyanam karmanam. That is, he should give up activities which are performed because of sense gratification. And then he says that, but then they should never give up activities of, and he says what should be given up. And then he also explains what should be performed, what should not be given up. And he says, don't give up activities of sacrifice, charity, and austerity. And also he says the mood should be in a very renounced mood, not expecting results, because sometimes we may, be inspired to perform some acts of charities or sacrifices, but we may have ulterior motives, like we want some name or fame, or we are doing some sacrifice so that we gain some wealth or some position. So that's why Krishna is very explicitly saying that they should be performed without any attachment or expectation of result. So beautifully Krishna has explained so far. Now we will see what is renunciation in the three modes. Renunciation or tyaga in three modes. So tyaga in ignorance. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Tyaga and passion. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to elevation of renunciation. And then tyaga and goodness. O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. So let's just see, like there is a picture on the there's a picture of the Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and then also Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But under that picture is a picture. Can anybody tell me what is that story?
The fox trying to get the sour grape.
Yeah, but is he able to? No, right? Yeah. So that's the moral. That's actually an example for Tyaga and passion, you know. So he finds it very troublesome. The fox, like, was it Mukul?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, yeah, your voice is a little feeble, but yeah, thanks so much, Mukul. Yeah, so the fox is trying to jump and get the grapes, but then he's not able to, and so he declares that the grapes are sour. So that is the attitude, you know, like in for somebody in passion, like you know, if it is too troublesome or is causing them discomfort, and then you know they give up that activity, you know, and they falsely claim it as vairagya and renunciation. So that is in the mode of passion, the fox, which we see there. So let's see a few more examples here. So what is Tyaga and goodness leading to transcendental goodness? So we have so many examples, like we see in the picture above, like our great Srila Prabhupada, his guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. All of them have given up, you know, so much. Of course, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur never got married, but Srila Prabhupada, you know, just to deliver the whole of the world at such a ripe age, you know, of 69, he came to America, you know, enduring 2 heart attacks on Jaladuta and taking so many hardships which are unimaginable for us. And he has sacrificed so much, done so much, austerity and tapasya that, you know, today we are actually relishing this fruit of his hard work, the hard work of Srila Prabhupada actually in service to Lord Krishna. So there are so many actually sannyasis also we see in our contemporary times. Like one personality who comes to my mind is His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami. I was, actually seeing his sannyasa initiation video, and he got sannyasa at a very young age. I think in 40 or 41 he was, and generally they do not give sannyasa at that very young age, but he got recommendations from all over, you know, from all the other senior devotees. And his story goes like this. So he was working in a multinational bank, and he was making quite a good money and had a great career. But when he came in touch with the devotees, he was so touched with everything, by everything, that the next visit when he came to the temple, he withdrew everything from his bank and put it, you know, in the hundi in the temple, and gave up his life totally for the service of Krishna. So that does happen. Yeah, that does happen in Kali Yuga too. So many Maharajas are examples to that. So many of Srila Prabhupada's exalted disciples, even my own Guru Maharaj, Srila Giriraj Swami Maharaj, also he gave up everything, you know, when he came in touch with Srila Prabhupada. So many of our gurus are actually in that mode, you know, who have dedicated all their lives to Krishna, so which actually transcends mundane goodness and goes to renunciation in spiritual transcendence. So also Radhika and I were discussing what examples we could, you know, try to quote, and she mentioned that Ambarish Prabhu, he's the son, great grandson of Ford, you know, of the Ford Motors fame. So he actually, Radhika told me this info. I didn't have the stats. So she told me that he donated more than $25 million for the construction of the, Vedic Planetarium Temple at Mayapur. So these great personalities, they know very nicely how to utilize the resources they have at their hand in the service of Krishna, and they are so inspiring, you know, in that sense. Another example which comes to my mind is King Dasharatha. So he performed this Putra Kameshti Yajna so that he could have sons. So isn't that a material desire to start with, that he performed something because he wanted to beget something? But if we understand it correctly, Dashratha was a king, and he had to make sure that he left behind a proper heir to the throne, you know, who could rule the kingdom well. So that is his varna, his the duty of his varna, that he needs to take care of his citizens. And so in that mood, you know, in the mode of goodness, because he was following his varnashrama dharma very, very carefully, he wanted to beget sons so that they could rule after him. So, moving on, the wise renunciant. The intelligent renouncer, situated in the mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work. So we also know about, the 12 Mahajans, of which Janaka Maharaj is very, very, famously talked about, or very renowned for how he followed the Varnashrama principles impeccably, and but at the same time he's also counted as a Mahajan. That is it's a great title given, a Mahajan or a Mahatma. He is That's a title given to somebody who was totally surrendered unto the Supreme Lord. So we see that they were situated in the mode of goodness, but of course with spiritual knowledge backing their goodness, and they were not attached to their kingly affairs or things like that, and they were neither hateful or they were not attached also. So they performed their duties so nicely. For one who has not renounced the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy. So we see that in this translation for this verse, Srila Prabhupada, he actually he says that I just need to refer. I think he refers to them as um, um, hellish planets and heaven, right? If I remember right. Yeah. I'll just refer the verse. Yeah. Anishtam Ishtam. That is the verse. Huh? It starts Anishtam Ishtam Mishram Cha. Anishtam, Srila Prabhupada, he describes it as, defines it as leading to hell. Ishtam is leading to heaven. Mishram is mixed. So, what it basically means is that, Papa or Punya, or, it could be either Papa or Punya, like that, whichever is mixed. For one who is not renounced, then the fruits, or he accrues the fruits of all these kind of activities he does. So when one is renounced, in that sense that he's not attached, he's neither attached or he's neither hateful of his work, but just does it. The key word is as a matter of duty, as a matter of duty. So when one performs everything as a matter of duty, he does not incur all these fruits of the action. So, but those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy. So we have seen some examples for this. Let's move on to the next slide. Oh my God, it's 8:12. Okay. This is an interesting, it's a little theoretical and technical, but nevertheless interesting. So the five causes of an action. The five causes of an action, according to the Vedanta, are: O mighty armed Arjuna, according to Vedanta, there are five causes for the accomplishment of all action. Now learn of those from me. Adhishthanam tatha karta karanam cha prithagvidam vividhascha prithak cheshtha daivam chaivatra panchamam. The place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the five factors of action. So in the second chapter, when Arjuna is refusing to fight, Lord Krishna gives him the Sankhya, Jnana. He actually gives him the Sankhya Yoga, and he explains that you're not this body. So don't think because of bodily relations I have to give up fighting like that. So he explains to him that everybody is destined to die. So don't be afraid and don't go thinking in terms of body. And he explains the concept of spirit soul. So next we see, so I'll go one by one. Adhishtanam, the place of action or the body of the jiva. Karta, the doer of the action or the consciousness reflected in the false ego. So Karta is the soul, So in the next chapter, we see that, when Krishna explains, then we understand that we are the spirit soul. So we tend to assume that the spirit soul is the doer. And we say, I'm doing the things I'm doing. But then later on, in further chapters, Krishna alludes that prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani vacha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manate. So in the next chapters, he says that these actually and these activities are actually performed by the three modes of material nature. That's what Lord Krishna explains to us. So what is actually causing, what are the causes of action is being explained here. Karanam, the instruments of action, the various senses. So, we may think that, okay, the desire which is induced in us because of our senses, like supposing I see some very tasty rasgulla there. So, I may start salivating and may want to perform an action so that I can go and get it. So the senses are the ones which are actually propelling my actions. So we could think of it like that also. And then cheshta. Cheshta, we could give an example. This says that for each and every action, there is a different endeavor. So action and endeavor. So what is the technical difference between action and endeavor? So action is some kind of an activity performed, and endeavor is actually the effort we take to perform that action. So, for example, there may be two people running a race, and one person may lose. I mean, he may not come first, the other person may come first. So, the endeavor or the effort put by the other person, we say, oh, that person is strong, that athlete is stronger, and that's why he won this race. And the other person is not up to it, he's not in full form, like we say, many times, he's not in full form today, and he's not. So we attribute this to the endeavor or the efforts of the of the doer many a time. So is the effort or the endeavor the actual doer of the action? The next, the factor which we are seeing is daivam. All one's activities depend on the will of the super soul who is seated within the heart as a friend. The supreme lord is the super cause. So ultimately, we come to understand that, we may have a strong body, we may have all our limbs together, and then, we may have the sense desire to perform some action. And also, we may think that we are strong, but unless the Supreme Lord sanctions it, we have seen in cases of when a person falls sick, or, they're afflicted by something like a stroke, they were very normally performing, the limbs are actually very normally performing. I mean, they suddenly they don't go that bad, do they? But then no longer the perfect person is not able to perform any of the activities which he or she was doing earlier very easily without even thinking about it, like it was second nature to him. But now he or she is not able to do these activities because the sanction, the sanction of the super soul, that is, I mean, his karma, his or her karma is used up, and that's all he was sanctioned for in this lifetime. So that is taken away. So as long as we don't have the sanction of the Paramatma, it's, even though we may have the body, the Adhishtanam, and we may, desire the Karta, the doer of the action. So what is the sole function of this soul, just to desire? It doesn't have the capacity. It uses the all the indriyas, everything to perform those actions, right? Like the gross organs, and like karmendriya, jnanendriya, like that. We use all that to perform our, to fruitify our desires. So we may have the desire, and because of whatever sense gratification needs we have, and we may think that, okay, I have good limbs, but unless the super soul does not sanction it, the activity or the action cannot come through. So in the next, I'm just trying to, okay, in the next few verses, we will see that how Krishna is explaining about the doership and the non-doership mentality. So, whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these five factors. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the five factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. So, if we went through the chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, and we thought that, okay, in this chapter Krishna says, okay, we are not the body, we're the spirit soul. So okay, the spirit soul is doing the thing. And then we learned about how the three modes are affecting. And so we are going in that process, but this verse gives us the whole picture, as to, okay, all of them are doers in their own sense, but then all the five factors, they have to come together properly for the action to happen. So it's, only an a foolish person, would think that, he or she is the only doer in this. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, that is, the soul is the only doer, not considering the five factors, is not very intelligent. So there's a nice picture we see of, how the men are being pulled by the strings like puppets. And these are the three modes of material nature. You see, they are acting under the guidance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we are being pulled, okay? We are being bombarded by the three modes every second, every minute of our life. Sometimes we are in mode of goodness, sometimes passion takes over, sometimes laziness or sleep takes over. So all these modes we transcend. I mean, we kind of go through all these modes during the whole course of the day. Non-doership mentality, one who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled. Though he kills men in this world, does not kill. So you see how he is being described here. Though he kills men in this world, does not kill. When one is so renounced and he's not motivated by false ego, and whose intelligence is not entangled. So where can the intelligence get entangled in? Get entangled in material or fruitive activities. So when we say intelligence is not entangled, where is it entangled? It is actually entangled at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So when we are investing all our intelligence in at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna in his service, then it makes no difference if he kills men or he does not kill. But then the caveat or the word of caution we need to see is, are we following Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra? Not that you go around thinking that you're a great devotee and say, yes, now I have the authority to kill. Doesn't make a difference. That doesn't work. You have to go by authority. So let's move on. I'm just worried if we are going to run time. Okay, the motivators of action. So we saw what are the factors, the main constituents, I mean, the main causes of action. So for now, we will see what are the motivators of action. Three motivators of action are jnanam, jnayam, and parignata. If you recall, we have learned about all this in the previous chapters, right? I think in the 13th chapter, Kshetra Vibhaga, that that chapter. I'm just seeing if okay, I skipped a few notes, but that's okay. Um, Yeah, I just wanted to quote these verses, from the 13th chapter. Idam shariram kaunteya kshetra mityabhidiyate etadyo veti tam prahu kshetrajna iti tadvitaha. So the blessed Lord then said, this body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower. We have parignata, and then further on, it is explained by Srila Prabhupada in the purport that there are two kinds of knowers. One is the soul, who just knows only the field of activity that is his own body. And then there is the super soul, who knows everything which is happening in everybody's body. So there are two knowers. And who is the object of knowledge? It is Lord Krishna himself. Vedescha sarver ahameva vedyo vedantakas veda videva chaham. So he very clearly says that he's the object of knowledge. And what is this knowledge actually? So this very nicely Srila Prabhupada has explained. I just want to read a few lines from that. Perfect knowledge of the constitution of the body, the constitution of the individual soul, and the constitution of the super soul is known in terms of Vedic literature as jnana. So a very beautiful definition Srila Prabhupada has given. That is the opinion of Krishna. That's what he says. So perfect knowledge of the constitution of the body. So what is this body? Am I this body? No, I am the spirit soul. And then the constitution of this super soul. What is the constitution of the super soul? And what's the constitution of the body? We have to understand that our constitutional position, or our basic position in life, is that we are the servants of Lord Krishna. So that is the constitutional position of the individual soul. And what is the constitutional position of the super soul? What is our relation with the super soul? Is that we enjoy a personal relationship with Lord Krishna there. So this very beautifully, Srila Prabhupada says that this is what is jnanam, knowledge that you're not this body, you're the soul, and then what is your relationship with Krishna. So everything extraneous of, all these 3 points is actually Shilpa Vidya, which we are indulging in for no great cause, so to speak. So this is the prime knowledge, which is a perfect knowledge, like Srila Prabhupada is saying. So we may be, great scholars and things like that, but unless we understand these 3 subject matters, we may not be able to call ourselves knowledgeable. We still be fools. Okay, moving on. Um, 3 constituents of action: karma, that is work; karanam, instruments of work, that is the senses; and karta, the worker or the doer. So we see how is the work performed. There should be some instrument for the work to be performed. Like supposing you're walking, so you need your legs to, and then you need to feel your foot on the ground and take the next step, and so many scientific things going on when you just walk. And then karta is the person who's actually says, okay, let me walk to the refrigerator, let me walk to the water cooler and get myself a cup of water. So he or she desires, and then the work is performed. So these are the 3 constituents of action. Yeah, I just yeah, there also, for the previous, the 18.18a, 3 motivators, I've also noted that, Srila Prabhupada mentions, he, um, this is something I just want to add. There are 3 Brahman conceptions. Prakriti is Brahman as the field of activities, and the Jiva, the individual soul, is also Brahman and is trying to control material nature. And the controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he is the factual controller. So, this is, I thought, a very interesting point Srila Prabhupada is trying to make. He says that one should not confuse these 3, Prakriti, Jiva, and Ishvara. One should not be confused, and they should not think that they are one and the same. But the 3 are in their different capacities. And he gives an analogy of the painter, the painting, and the easel to actually understand this concept of the 3 Brahmans. So Prakriti is the field of activities. It's also addressed as Brahman. And then like we say, the impersonal form of the Lord, the Brahman, feature of the Lord, like that. So Prakriti, Jiva, and also the Parabrahman, the super soul. So all of them are in one sense referred to as Brahman. Okay, according to the three modes. Jnanam karma cha karta cha tridaiva guna bhedatah prochate guna sankhyaane yatha varshanutanyapi. According to the 3 different modes of material nature, there are 3 different kinds of knowledge: action, and performer of action. Now hear of them from Krishna. In this word, the Lord says that he wishes to speak about the different types of knowledge, workers, and work itself according to the 3 modes. So these are very interesting. We have tried to gather examples. Radhika and I discussed, and I also consulted our great Lalitangi Mataji to help me with some examples. So this is going to be a very fun portion. So knowledge or jnana in 3 modes. Jnana and goodness, that knowledge by which undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities. Though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. So this is that, famous verse of Bhagavad Gita, which goes like, शुनि चैव श्वपाके च पंडिता सम विद्या विनय संपन्ने ब्राह्मणे गविहस्तिनि शुनि चैव श्वपाके च pandita samadarshina. So the knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities. So a person, who is very knowledgeable in the mode of goodness, he only sees everybody, he sees the spirit soul in everybody. Though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. We'll see one example for this, and I have Srila Prabhupada's picture. So this is a pastime related to Srila Prabhupada, how he would look at the potential of everybody and everybody, and not look at their material qualifications or apparent disqualifications, which we may look at with our mundane eyes. So this is actually This pastime anecdote is actually from the Folio Veda base, and it is told by His Holiness Giriraj Swami Guru Maharaj. In Boston, I'll just read what he has told. In Boston, we hardly made any new devotees, but after some months, a young man named Peter came. Peter was eccentric. He used to sit in the hallway at the entrance to the building, lean his back against the wall with his legs out straight and read. Sometimes he would lay down in the hallway and sleep. We were getting upset because the first thing that a new person would see was Peter slouched in the hallway and sometimes asleep. Satsvarup Maharaj wrote Srila Prabhupada, what to do? Srila Prabhupada wrote back, what's the matter? Can't you tolerate? The answer was, could we tolerate it? We felt uneasy, but we tolerated. After some days, crazy Peter left Boston and went to New York. We were a small family then, and I wondered what happened to Peter. So on my way from Boston to India through New York, I asked about Crazy Peter. You see the name Crazy Peter. The devotee said he had gone to New Vrindavan and he was doing very well. He was going to be initiated. This is Giriraj Swami, he was amazed. After that, I lost track of Crazy Peter until about 20 years later when I visited Los Angeles and I saw Crazy Peter at the Mangal Aarti. I was surprised that he was still with us. I asked someone, who's that? The devotee said, oh, that's Kushakrita Prabhu. Such a great Sanskrit scholar. I mean, amazing person. He was famous because he translated scriptures from Sanskrit and Bengali into English. I thought, my God, how merciful Srila Prabhupada is. By his mercy and compassion, Crazy Peter, in whom we saw little potential, had come to the stage of translating Vaishnava literature. Srila Prabhupada intensely wanted everyone to engage in Krishna's service and act in Krishna consciousness. He saw potential in everyone and he wanted to give everyone a chance. Jai Srila Prabhupada. That's such a touching story. So we see an example how he only saw the spirit soul, and when we see he saw the spirit soul, what we mean is that he actually saw his potency to serve Krishna. Okay, jnana and passion, that knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. So this is very common knowledge which we see in Kali Yuga. So much of hypocritic behavior we all witness, and sometimes we are privy to also, and where we differentiate people based on their fame, wealth, position, and things like that. So this, I'm not giving examples, and jnana and ignorance, and that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. So this person in ignorance, he doesn't even know what is the actual work. He just keeps doing, acting according to his whims and fancies and thinks that he's working. Okay, I have to rush through. Okay, work in three modes, karma in three modes. Karma in goodness is regulated, niyatam, that is, another word for regulated, done with detachment, sanga rahitam, without like or dislike, araga dvesha, with no desire for fruitive results, aphala prepsuna. Karma and passion, done with great labor, bahula ayasam, done seeking to gratify one's senses, done with false ego. And then karma and ignorance leads to bondage, destructive, harmful to self and others, without considering consequences, disregarding scriptures, in illusion, that is moha. So, I already discussed, the 12 Mahajans, and especially Janaka Maharaj. He is actually, an epitome of how he performed his kingly duties in the mode of goodness, because he adhered to the Varnashrama principles. So I'm not going to repeat that here. And then we see this example, below the picture of the 12 Mahajans, we see this personality. Who is this? We see there Vamanadev, right? And that's Bali Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj is again another example, of how he was a great king and he performed all his duties, he was always giving charity, he never said a no to anybody. And how Lord Vamana actually approached him for charity, and the story happens, and he is quoted as an example of charity there. And so that is also, and again, he was in one sense, he was also doing karma in the mode of goodness. So let me see if I have other examples for others. I thought I did note down. Yeah, Bali marriage is sacrifice. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's all the examples I have for this. Let's move on to the next one. Worker in three modes: karta in goodness, karta in passion, and the doer or the karta in ignorance. The karta in goodness is detached, mukta sangha, devoid of false ego, anaham, determined dhriti, enthusiastic utsaha, unwavering in success or failure, nirvikaraha. Karta in passion, he is attached to work, desires to enjoy results, greedy, envious, impure, subject to joy and sorrow. So raga dvesha, all that he has in mode of passion. In kartan ignorance, acts against the scriptures, materialistic and whimsical, obstinate, cheating, procrastinating, expert in insulting others, lazy, morose. So I think I can identify myself with many of these qualities, which are on 27 and 28 verses, more than the 26 actually. And there is a very nice example His Holiness Hanumat Prashak Maharaj gives, for this, which we can, I'll try to repeat here. So I put the temple of a picture. Picture of a temple there. This is our Sri Radha Neelamadhav Dham at Houston. So if there are workers working on the construction of a temple, so if you were to go and ask a person, who is in the mode of goodness as to what's happening, he would say that, we are constructing a temple here. So we are doing this. We are going to install these deities here and do this, like that. And then if you were to ask the same question to another person who is in the mode of passion, he would say, oh, you know what, this is the biggest temple in the whole of US, and we are spending so many dollars in this and that, and it has the finest marbles and finest things, and we are expecting these huge crowds and blah blah and all, like it's about more about achievement and a sense of achievement and wealth and power and prestige and things like that. And then a person in ignorance, if you were to go and ask him what's happening, he would just say, oh, I'm just helping with some construction, I don't even know what this is about. I'm just doing something, because I have to work. So that is how a person in a mode of goodness or passion or ignorance would react to a simple thing like constructing a temple. So let's move on to the next. Intelligence or understanding, buddhi in three modes. Buddhi in goodness, one knows what is to be done and not to be done, to be feared and not to be feared, binding and liberating. Buddhi in passion, one cannot distinguish religion and irreligion, action to be done and not to be done. Buddhi in ignorance considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion, takes everything in the opposite direction of the truth. We have a picture there of Srimati Sita Devi sitting there under the tree, and that is our sweet Lord Hanuman. He's trying to see who is this lady, who is weeping. So when Hanuman went in search of Sita Mata, um, finally when he crosses the ocean, he goes he fights and wins over these three demons, and then he again faces Lankini, and after so many other things, he goes into the palace and he mistakes the queen as Sita, but then he thinks, no, Sita cannot be like this. And then he comes to Ashokvan, and there he sees this lady who's all shriveled and dry, and like all pale. She's just thinking, when will Lord Ram come and rescue me? And then he's like, okay, this is Mother Sita. But then how do I approach Mother Sita? Because when he was just sitting on the tree, Ravana comes and threatens Sita, and he says that you have to marry me, and he gives her an ultimatum that get ready to, get married to me, in so many days. And he orders his the other demonesses around, to change Sita Devi's mind, because Sita said nothing would ever, I would never give in to you, to marrying you. So at that time, Hanuman, he was very perplexed, and he was like, how do I approach Mother Sita, because she's under so much trouble. She's weeping literally like that. And how do I approach? And even if I approach, I don't want her to be scared, like, because the way Ravana was threatening Hanuman actually witnessed all that, and how the demonesses, put Sita into so much of distress. He sees all that, and he's like, even if I were to go and tell Mother Sita, that, I am, Lord Rama's agent. I've come in search of you, and after, I see that you are here, I'm going to get them, and we're going to win you back, like that. But he was worried that, what if Mother Sita gets scared and she doesn't believe? And he did not want to scare Mother Sita all the more. So then he was like, what should I do? What should I do? Then he starts chanting Lord Rama's name and Lord Rama's glory. And he says, only Rama Nama will help me to get out of this, a tricky situation I'm in. And he chants. And then when Mother Sita hears that, her heart is pacified. And then, she kind of is in a mood at least to accept something from, from Lord Hanuman. It takes a lot of, um, he shows different proof and all that, which Lord Rama shared with him. But at least, Lord Rama's name was so comforting to Mother Sita that she got some hope. And, she was not scared by Hanuman approaching. So Hanuman, he actually used his intelligence that way. To lot of intelligence was used, when the other four armies of monkeys, they went in each direction. They were almost giving up that, we don't see anything, no land or anything, where can we go and look for Mother Sita? But Hanuman never gave up, and he was steadfast, and he used his intelligence to, actually fight with the three demons too, very nicely. He did very funny pastimes, I mean, very humorous pastimes. But at the same time, we can see, buddhi of Hanuman, how he has used his intelligence and his anger to actually serve Lord Rama. And let me hmm, um, yeah, I have some more notes, but, I am not going to go there. I had some, um, yeah, maybe I will, if we have time later, we can go to. Okay, determination, Dhriti in three modes. Dhriti in goodness, unbreakable, sustained by yoga practice, controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses. Dhriti in passion, desiring fruitive results, phala akankshi in religion, economic development, and sense gratification, in the association of similar people, prasangena. So it's like going to a golf club, or, some kind of a club where we find similar minded people, and we want to cultivate some habit, some something like that. Dhriti in ignorance, cannot go beyond dreaming, swapnam, fearfulness, bhayam, lamentation, shokam, moroseness, vishadam, and illusion, madam. So all these qualities we see are being repeated, right? For the ignorance, they absolutely have no clue what is going on. So I have two examples here. One is, we see Haridas Thakur, how he was so steadfast, in his, this, of course, his was transcendental goodness, how he was so steadfast in chanting his rounds. So many obstacles came. He was beaten in 22 marketplaces, but still he did not give up his chanting. And, a prostitute was sent. I mean, so many examples are given, like, how he was actually being tried to he was actually persuaded, or in one way tested to go away from the path of chanting. But he never ever gave up his chanting at any. So that is his dhriti, that is his determination. And we see below him the picture of this is Hiranyakashipu also. He was so much in mode of passion, and also in one sense ignorance. He wanted to claim control over everything, and he was determined in one sense to actually kill his own son. So many things he put his son through, like, put him in a pit of snakes, try to burn him alive. I mean, there are so many things he tried to do to his son, which is unimaginable for, I mean, we cannot even imagine any father doing such atrocities to their own son. So he was determined in his mode of passion and ignorance to punish his own son, because he wanted to be the Lord of the universe. He denied the existence of Narayan. When Prahlad used to chant the name of Lord Krishna, he refused to hear. He was furious. So that is his mode of passion, because he wanted to rule over everything, be the big boss. So he denied the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Happiness, Sukham, in three modes. Sukham in goodness brings joy and destroys sorrow by practice. Like poison in the beginning, becomes nectar at the end, arises from purity of intellect, awakens one to self-realization. Sukham, or happiness in passion, arises from contact of the senses with the sense objects, appears like nectar in the beginning, becomes poison in the end. Sukham in ignorance, blind to self-realization, delusion from beginning to end, arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion or intoxication. I forgot to put the picture for the third one. So can anybody recognize the first picture of the Rasagulas is for happiness in which mode?
Goodness.
Is it goodness? Is it sweet or bitter in the beginning?
Sweet.
Sweet, right? Yeah. So if you eat too many rasgullas, you're going to fall sick, right? So it is sweet. But then what happens is you go on thinking, yeah, it's so yum, yum, yum. And then what happens? You get an upset stomach. So that ends up like poison in the end. You have stomach poisoning, food poisoning. Okay. This exercise routine I'm showing here, this is a very mundane example. Forgive me for that. But what do you think this is an example of? Okay. This is a, yeah, please go ahead.
Passion.
Okay, in this sense, the example of exercise I'm giving is for goodness. Supposing, just assume that this is a devotee who's trying to maintain good health to serve the Lord. Okay, so when you start off exercising, you have so much body pain and muscle pain and so many things, right? I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. But then as you keep doing it, doing it, doing it, you feel a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and you're able to do good service to Krishna. So that is actually um, happiness in goodness. That's what I was trying to refer. And sukham in ignorance. Can anybody tell what's an example for that? Who thinks that I'm very happy, I'm enjoying life, but actually, in actual sense, he or she is leading a miserable life? Who is this? Okay, it's none other than the pig. The pig thinks that, he's very enjoying his life. He's very happy eating stool and, doing all abominable things. And he's like, why do I care? When we were in I don't know if I was in high school or in college, my one of my professors, she asked, then in the class, that what is the purpose of human life? The pig also is living there, and he or she thinks that, he's enjoying life and very happy in their own situation, eating stool and thinking, wow, this is the yummiest food I have. So you humans think that some of the food is there, and you're also eating. So what is the difference between a human and an animal who is leading that kind of a life? So dharmena hinam pashubhir samanam. So Srila Prabhupada actually explains very beautifully that it is this intelligence which is the distinguishing factor, for a human being versus any other animal. That the human can use intelligence, and he must use the intelligence in the service of Krishna to advance in spiritual life. So we will go to the next slide, which is the conclusion slide. Summary of the influence of modes. Natadasti prithivyam va divi deveshu va punaha sattvam prakriti jairmuktam yede bihisya tribhir gunaihi. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. The Lord here summarizes the total influence of the three modes of material nature all over the universe. So when we are on this material planet, Earth, we are constantly being bombarded by these three modes of nature. We saw how, knowledge, actor, the doer, and then the karma, the activity, intelligence, everything is, can be affected by these three modes of nature. But a person must try to transcend this by following the practices of Krishna consciousness. So, on that note, we will end and we'll just go through the summary. Summary says that first 1 to 12 verses discuss freedom from bondage through Karma Yoga, 13 to 7, the 5 factors of action, 18 through 40, the modes that control all the activities and all beings. So, with this, I would like to conclude today's session. And please forgive me if I made any mistakes. I was trying to rush through the last portion. We are so much past the time, and I apologize for this. So, thank you so much again for giving me this opportunity. And please feel free to share your comments or realizations or any questions you may have. Thank you. Hare Krishna. And Lalitangi Mataji will be covering from verses 41 onwards to 78. So that'll be the last session next week.
Hare Krishna Mataji, what a wonderful class, wonderful explanation of all the concepts with so many examples and your realizations. And I liked how, Crazy Peter was Kushakrita Prabhu, and how Srila Prabhupada is written that can't we tolerate, and so many interesting information you gave today. Thank you so much for your brilliant class, Mataji.
Always to Srila Prabhupada, always to Shri Guru and Gauranga.
If anybody has any questions or comments for Mataji, please go ahead.
Sukha Sagari Mataji, thank you so much, Mataji. It was very beautifully explained. Yes, Kushakarta Prabhu's example and also the fox example for the mode of passion. That was also very interesting. I didn't think that far, so it was very nice. Thank you so much, Mataji, for the detailed explanations. Hare Krishna.
So nice to have you, Preeti.
Yeah, I saw your message and I got reminded and then I stayed back. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you actually for your kind association. It's so many times you give me seva for class, and I always feel it's your potency that helps me to even talk anything like that. So,
Mataji, come on.
and even Lalitangi Mataji and all the organizers, Vinita Gandharvika, so much they encourage me, and I'm just indebted to all of them.
Hare Krishna, just Sukha Sagari Mataji, Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai. I miss your class, half of the class week is working, Mataji. Today is my patient, it is a very big day, Eid, so little busy, but Mataji, your association, all the Bhakti Sangha teachers are very important for all of us. They just charge our battery, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. There is no words to your sincere seva. I will sure hear tomorrow recording and share in Hindi or English, whatever I learn from you. Mataji, my one small request, with folded hand and with all the Bhakti Sangha teachers' permission, can you sing 3-4 lines Sisi Jagannath Takam? Today is Ekadasi, so please, Mataji.
Sure, Mataji, sure. And like you said, it's reciprocal. So I find you inspiring in so many ways, Mataji. You posted, so nice pictures of how you're doing prasadam distribution, or even on Ekadashi. You're taking so much austerity, and you're doing so nice. So it's mutual, and I find a lot of inspiration in you too, Mataji. And yeah, I will definitely sing the Jagannath Ashtakam after we are done with the questions or any realizations, Mataji.
Always Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Sri Radha Gopinath ki jai. Koti Koti Dandvat Pranam to you and all Bhakti Sangha teachers.
Done with pronouns, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Are you able to hear me, Mataji?
Yeah, very loud and clear.
Oh, okay, good. Just driving in the car. Thank you so much for the beautiful presentation, and Mataji, very, very nice. I always get connected to you, whenever you give a lecture. So thank you so much, Mataji. You've always given us the nourishment, as Mataji says, the boost. So that is what we would say, the spiritual boost is what we derived from your lectures, and it was really nice. So much. I think you've put in a lot of effort, because obviously going through each of Srila Prabhupada's purport and what the essence are and what the intended meaning is, so that we are better able to understand that particular concept. And then along with that, you're substituting it with examples, which makes it clearer for us to pursue and see how we should actually act when given in a situation. So this is all for us to practically behave, at least in the mode of goodness, as much to the extent possible. So through mercy of Srila Prabhupada, if we are able to do that, that will be the best, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
All thanks to you, Radhika. I know why you're connecting with me, because these are all prepared by you. Yeah, so naturally you will connect because it's your material.
No, Mataji, not at all. So much of effort has gone, and I can totally see that, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Radhika.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hi, Krishna Mataji. I was waiting for your comments.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada and to you, Mataji. It was such a wonderful class. Mataji, I have to ask only 2-3 questions because the time is already late. Mataji, in the beginning, you mentioned that actually the Bhagavad Gita was finished in the 17th chapter. I think you said that. But we know here Arjuna is again having the question, what is Tyaga and Sanya? So then why does they say that it's been over in 17th chapter?
In one sense, this is giving a summary, like for all the verses which we have seen, like, because if you see, these questions were already asked by Arjuna. He is consolidating basically all the things we have learned in all the other chapters so far. So if you see chapters 3, 4, 5, they discussed this Tyaga versus Sannyasa concept there too. It was explained in great detail. And then renunciation, Tyaga. And then we also found in the other chapters, like I was saying, in in some chapters, Ahankara Vimudhatma, the verse which I said that we think that the spirit soul is the doer, and then Prakriti Kriyamanani Gune Karmani. So in that, it's explained that the 3 modes of material nature is the actual doer. Like that, so many concepts have been explained all through, but everything is actually coming together in this chapter in a very nice consolidated way, because, then the 5 causes of action are discussed. We have seen all this, right? We have seen we have learned about the body, the doer, the senses, and then the science of God, like which was discussed between in the chapters from 9 through 11, like the different vibhutis of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we also discussed about jnanam, jneyam, parignata, where all these are familiar concepts, right? So all these important concepts from these different, and then the actions in the different modes of material nature, everything related knowledge, in the context of the 3 modes, everything is being explained here. In one sense, it's not very new knowledge to us, because we have heard about these terms like karma, karanam, karta, jnanam, jneyam, parignata. All this, we have learned in the other chapters, right? And also, the 3 modes of material nature, the actions, the sacrifices, knowledge, all this is, in one sense, being consolidated here and explained a little bit more further. That's why this is called a summary of the other chapters.
So why does Lord Krishna has to do that again, Mataji? Because once already has been told everything very clearly. Yes, the modes of nature in Lalitangi Mataji class itself, we undergone all the 3 types of modes and everything. So why does he again repeat it?
After reading all the chapters piece by piece by piece, sometimes there could be some loose ends, like I was explaining in the beginning. Like something may not sit right, we may feel, oh, I learned something in that chapter, but now in this chapter I'm learning something else. Something is not actually fitting in the puzzle, like that. There are, like I said, I had this aha moment when when I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, and then I was reading about how the soul is not the doer, and then the modes of material nature are actually controlling our actions and things like that. So when I was reading, then who is the doer, this question was always coming to my mind, and until I came to this chapter I never got the answer, and I'm not exaggerating. So some questions in our mind may not be though Prabhupada does explain it in the 8th chapter. In the purport, he gives this reference to this sloka, the 5 actions, the 5 causes of action. He gives reference, but I did not read properly or something, so I had to come until this chapter to actually understand that, like, okay, these are the 5 things. Now it makes better sense to me, because I was looking at them as individual chapters, but this kind of consolidated everything.
Okay, so it connects everything. Every chapter has been connected in this chapter.
Yeah.
Okay, Mataji. And Mataji, when we are saying about the 3 modes in everything, you mentioned action, knowledge, worker, intelligence, determination, and finally happiness. So as for us, Mataji, I'm asking, how do we which should be the highest priority, or how do we make sure that we are always doing it in the mode of goodness? The question is, for example, if I'm going to do the action first I should be in the intelligent wise, I should be in the mode of goodness. Only then the action is going to be in the mode of goodness. So for us, how do we make sure that we are always in the mode of goodness? Or sometimes in the intelligent wise, we may be in the goodness, but the action may end up in passion or ignorance. So how do we make sure that everything at least we check, or at least we have the consciously we make sure that we are in the mode of goodness? How do we do that, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji. The way to ensure that we are doing everything in mode of goodness would be to follow the path of devotional service. That is like a short answer, they say, वासुदेवे भगवती भक्ति योग प्रयोजित जनयत्या सुवैराग्यम ज्ञानम चयत अहितुकम. So this Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Adhokshaja. If you do the bhakti to Adhokshaja, Jnanam Vairagyam, all this will come by itself. Like, whatever knowledge you need, the renunciation you need, what you should do, all that will come automatically if we engage in devotional service. This is very nicely explained in Srimad Bhagavatam also by Srila Prabhupada. So this is like a shortcut, and we don't have to consciously keep thinking, oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? So am I thinking the right way, or is my intelligence deluding me? Am I acting in proper intelligence or proper knowledge? So all these questions will kind of be dispelled when we are on the path of devotional service, because when you're on this path of devotional service, rest assured that you um, uh, when you're sincerely doing it, rest assured that you're not going to deviate into something bad. Though at sometimes the situations may apparently look like, oh my god, this is tough and I'm not really liking it, or something like that. But whenever such situations come in life, we have to look at them as stepping stones, because when you have to cross that one level and go to another level of advancement in spiritual life, there will be some kind of trouble or turmoil. You'll face, oh my god, what is this happening to me? But don't get perturbed, because that actually means you're transcending to another level of advancement. So that's what I have heard from the spiritual teachers. Like, the best way, like I said, bhakti, with bhakti, everything else will come by itself. So we don't have to make a separate endeavor for knowledge of activities, or only bhakti to adhokshaja will bring about everything else. That's the answer I have, Mataji. Does anybody else want to add? Lalitangi, Radhika, Preeti, Vilasni, everybody? Or Vrinda Gopika Mataji, anybody wants to add? Vinita? I don't know if that satisfied you, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, that's one of the, because Krishna says, right, devotional service is ultimate. Because in other Jnana or Karma Kanta, we don't know in which passion or ignorance we may, but in devotional service, we are sure that we're not into passion and ignorance. So that makes us stick to the goodness. So yes, I'm satisfied with the answer, Mataji. Thank you for that. And finally, Mataji, in the beginning, we were discussing about Tyaga and Sannyasa, but I felt in the flow we were only discussing about renunciation, Tyaga. So, or is that Sannyasa comes at, again it comes, or Krishna's only discussing about renunciation?
Yeah, if you see in the third, fourth, fifth, one of those chapters also, he says that this renunciation of fruits is much better, compared to actual sannyasa, because, like, I don't know if you recall in the beginning also, I discussed this point. Like I said, I was listening to one lecture by one Prabhuji, and he was saying why is that the tyaga is considered better than sannyasa, because in sannyasa we could pretend, especially in this Kali Yuga, we would be pretending as though we have renounced everything and be lazy actually, but it could be mistaken for sannyas, as though you've given up all activities and you just want to sit there, beg for alms and eat nicely, lead a convenient life like that. So there is a lot of scope, for cheating there. But when you are doing a renunciation of the fruits of your action, and you're situated in, so many times we saw in today's class also, is unaffected by anything, by loss or by gain, by misery or happiness, like that is the position you are. And when you're in mode of goodness, you're sitadir, sitadir muni, you're not affected by these dualities of life, so to speak. So this, when you're able to perform these actions in that kind of a mindset, that itself is a big, big, big endeavor. It's not a joke, right? Supposing somebody comes and gives me a slap, I'll be like, I'll be like so perturbed, and I will be shaken, right? So I mean, so when I'm trying to do an action and then trying to, be situated in that mode of goodness, it's even more difficult, like trying to deal with all the things that material life has to throw at you, and then leading like a grahastha life, or like that, and then trying to balance things is not easy, right? And also, like I said from the other class, the Prabhuji was mentioning that when you work hard for something and you made a lot of money, it's really not easy to just give away the money, just like that, for some cause, whatever cause that may be. So, all that, to give up the fruits of your actions when you work so hard for it, it's much tougher, because um, um, there was this three kinds of vairagya I actually wanted to, discuss earlier. One is this smashana vairagya, which we get when we, go to like a funeral, or, when a death happens, we get this vairagya and we're like, okay, this life is ephemeral, it's just, I'm not going to be here for long. For 2-3 days, it lasts there, this kind. And then another one is, this prasava vairagya, when a lady is pregnant, and she's going to deliver a child, it's like a second birth, and she's like, I'm never going to have another child, I'm so done with it. You get that vairagya like that, oh, this is too much, like that. So then there's also another term called marakata vairagya. There's the renunciation of a monkey, like a false renunciation. Or like I gave the example of that fox aiming for the grapes and not being able to, like jumping from one branch to another without actually, the monkey is like jumping always, right, from one branch to the other, because it's not fixed in what it wants to do, and it has a monkey brain. So, like just jumping around from one to another, giving up each and every endeavor halfway, because it doesn't have the grit to, follow through along. So, so it's not easy to invest all your energies in some action and then give up the fruit. Is much tougher that way than, like I said, in Kali Yuga, you may falsely renounce things also. So in those chapters 3 to 5, Lord Krishna clearly says, of the two, this is better, especially in the context of Kali Yuga, where, he also explains in the second chapter that we cannot even maintain our physical body if we don't engage in activity. If you recall, Sharira Yatra Pichate, that verse, he says we cannot even maintain our physical body. So we are forced to act, in this material world. And when you are forced to act, we have to be situated in that position of um, um, in that position of equanimity, or where we understand both loss and gain as the same. And also, as we saw earlier, he's trying to describe all these things, but we saw in the third verse or second verse, we saw how he defines that sannyasa. Doesn't mean that you give up all your activities and sit, but you should only give up the activities which are kamyanam karmana, which are based on material desire. So in this purport, actually, I will take 2 minutes to nicely, Prabhupada has very beautifully explained what you asked. I will explain that. So when we are referring to sannyasa, or was it in another verse? Yeah, he explains that, how he himself. One second, Mataji, I will try to look if that verse is there. This one, Mataji, it is in the purport for 18.5. The yogis should perform acts for the advancement of human society. There are many purificatory processes for advancing a human being to spiritual life. The marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be, it is called Vivaha Yajna. Okay, this paragraph. Should a sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relations encourage the marriage ceremony? The Lord says here that any sacrifice which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. Vivaha Yajna, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind and so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. For most men, this Vivaha Yajna should be encouraged. Even by persons in the renounced order of life. So Srila Prabhupada, he himself, he had actually conducted so many weddings, because he didn't want illicit relations, to happen between young boys and girls who had joined him in the early days. So he, even though he was in the sannyas order of life, he did practically everything. So he did not falsely renounce and said, I will just sit, and do nothing like that. He did not do that. He actively engaged himself in all kinds of Krishna conscious activities. He taught people to cook. He taught people to even play the mridanga drum. He taught people to even sing bhajans. He taught people to play the kartals. And so many things, like, it's unending, the list of what Prabhupada personally has taught all his first, the disciples is unending. So he didn't sit pretty there and say, I'm a sannyasi and giving up everything. No, the sannyasi, he used all his energies in the service of the Lord. So that is the actual definition of sannyasi. So in that sense, Lord Krishna is explaining more about the tyaga, the renunciation of the fruits, because even the sannyasi, he's supposed to be in that kind of, in that kind of mindset, that he should perform some activities as duties, like he should not, like in the fifth chapter, or which one, which says that the sannyasi is not a person who does not light a fire, so a sannyasi should do these activities if it is to actually further the preaching of the Lord's glory. So a sannyasi should not shy from doing. So that's why Lord Krishna insists that action is better, than just false renunciation, because we tend to think of it differently. Like, that's why Arjuna kept asking the same question again and again. Why should I act? Why should I fight? When you're saying knowledge is good and jnana is good, I should be situated in buddhi yoga. So why are you asking me to fight? He kept asking the same question all along, right? Because we will tend to mistake, that, oh, sannyas means I give up everything, I don't do nothing. But it doesn't work like that. Krishna very clearly explains that kamnyanam karmanam, that's all we need to give up, the actions in desire for sense gratification. That's all we need to give up, but we should not give up our nitya karma or prescribed duties. We should not give up. So that's what I understood, Mataji. Please, if others have to add, please add.
Yes, Mataji, that clarifies my doubt. So the sannyasi has to be in the mood of a renunciate. That's the key. Yeah, just saying the name that I'm a sannyasi, but they're not renunciating anything. That yes, nice, Mataji. That was a wonderful and reply. Okay, Mataji, thank you so much. It was a wonderful session, and thank you for Radhika Mataji for the slides. Also, they were so beautiful, and seeing the slides itself, we can learn, we can read from it, and we get clarified. And for the examples also, Mataji, they were so wonderful. All the examples that you quoted. Thank you, Mataji, for your service. Jai Sachinandana, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, next week is going to be the fitting finale by Her Grace Lalitangi Mataji. Yeah, if everybody's okay, I will just sing Jagannath Ashtakam. Are there any more questions? Sorry if I cut anybody off. Any more questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, if there are no more questions, I will just sing Jagannath Ashtakam. Bubbly, bubbly, Mira, Kartanda, Nivasi. कदाचित् कालिन्दी तटविपिन सङ्गीतकरावो मुदाभिरी नारी वदन कमलास्वादमधुपः रमा शम्भु ब्रह्मा मरपति गणेशाचितपदो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे भुजे सवे वेणुं शिरसि शिखि पिच्छं कटितटे तुकूलं नेत्रान्ते सहचर कटाक्षं विदधाते सदा श्रीमद्वृन्दावन वसति लीलापरिचयो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे महाबोधिस्थिरे कनक रुचिरे नीलशिखरे वसान् प्रसादान्त सहज बलभद्रेण बलिना सुभद्रा मध्यस्थ सकल सुरसेवा वसरादो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे कृपा पारवार सजल जलद श्रेणिरुचिरो रमावणि राम स्फुरदमल पङ्केरुहमुखः सुरेन्द्रराध्य श्रुतिगणशिखा गीतचरितो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे रथारूढो गच्छन् पथिमीलित भूदेव पटलैः स्तुति प्रादुर्भावं प्रतिपदमुपाकर्ण्य सदयः दया सिन्धुर्बन्धु सकल जगतां सिन्धुसुताय जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे परब्रह्मा पीढ कुवलय दलोत्फुल्लनयनो निवासी नीलाद्रौ निहितचरणोऽनन्त शिरसि रसानन्दो राधा सरस वपुरालिङ्गनसुखो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे न वैयाचे राज्यं न च कनकमाणिक्यविभवम् न याचेऽहं रम्यां सकलजनकाम्यां वरवधूम् सदा काले काले प्रमथपतिना गीतचरितो जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे हर त्वं संसारं द्रुततरमासारं सुरपते हर त्वं पापानां विततिम् अपरां यादवपते अहो दिने नाथे निहित चरणो निश्चितमिदम् जगन्नाथ स्वामी नयन पथगामी भवतु मे जगन्नाथाष्टकं पुण्यं यः पठेत् प्रयतशुचिः सर्वपापविशुद्धात्मा विष्णुलोकं स गच्छति। जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महाराज की जय। Sorry, Mataji, we couldn't do a call and response because of the time. It's already 9:20 and 10:20 for East.
श्री जगन्नाथ अष्टकम की जय, सुखेश्वरी माता की जय, all भक्ति संगत टीचर्स की जय। दंडवत प्रणाम माता जी।
Thank you, Mataji.
Wonderful, Mataji.
Yes,
Very,
Mataji.
very beautiful song. And thank you so much for your wonderful class and question answer session. So, is there anybody else has any other comments?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I just want to say that's such a beautiful class, Mataji. Thank you so much for a beautiful class and very nice singing, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
I love your singing, Sukha Sagari Mataji.
I love your chanting, Vrinda.
Hare Bol. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Vinita, for all your support. Yeah, I see Shamagari Mataji there. It's nice to have so many devotees. Devhuti Mataji is also.
Hare Krishna Mataji, very beautiful singing Mataji. Thank you so much. I just now joined and I got jackpot. You are singing.
You were expecting the chanting, Mata. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, we will chant now.
I'm sorry to take your time.
No problem.
Litangi Mataji, would you like to close the call, Mataji? You are closed.
Yeah, yes, Mataji. So thank you so much for the brilliant lecture and the song and the question answer session. You immersed us in the nectar of Bhagavad Gita, Mataji. Thank you all the assembled devotees. So let's all offer obeisances to Mataji and all the devotees assembled. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Granthra Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Closing the call, dear devotees. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.